If you haven't seen this week's episode of Stardust Crusaders, then be careful, there are going to be massive spoilers all over this review. In this week's episode of Stardust Crusaders, 2 members of Jotaro's team are officially dead. Avdol and Iggy. Let's take a moment of silence. Okay. So this week's episode was the balls. The Vanilla Ice 3-parter is without a doubt my favorite part of the entire JoJo's Bizarre Adventure series thus far. Keep in mind I don't read the manga version, I've just been watching the anime. But this entire 3-parter right here has just been amazing. Not only has it featured some just very critical character deaths, but Polnareff was bad ass this week. He was truly the White Knight of this week's episode. I especially love how he actually ends up finishing off Vanilla Ice. But before we get to that, I was really shocked. I honestly thought originally that Jotaro, Joseph, and Kakyoin were just gonna bust in the room all walking tall, and they were gonna save Iggy and Polnareff. It actually went into a completely different direction. As this giant ball of death is about to obliterate everything that is Polnareff, suddenly Iggy, with his last breath, uses his stance powers to pick up Polnareff and pull him on the ceiling, and this gives Polnareff the ultimate opportunity to attack Vanilla Ice. What he does is, he takes his sword, jams it right through his head, grabs the other side, and snaps his neck. This was awesome. That totally could have been the end of the battle, and it would have been totally satisfying. But no, they upped the ante just a little bit more, because as this battle has been going on, if anyone noticed, Vanilla Ice has been taking a lot of serious damage and should be dead, and I assumed originally he was a vampire, and I was like 50% right. He was slowly transforming into a vampire as the battle was going on, and you figure this out at the very end when a door opens up and the sunlight comes in and it starts to burn away his arms and legs. This leads to one of the coolest finishers I've seen in the series, and what I really love about it is that Polnareff totally took advantage of the fact that Vanilla Ice's pride was what was going to kill him, and he was goading him on. He's like, "What's the matter, Vanilla Ice? You're not gonna fight me, I'm right here!" And totally you could insert the line from Predator, where the Predator's about to kill Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he's all like, "Come on, do it, do it, kill me now! Get to the chopper!" And right as Vanilla Ice is getting ready to run at Polnareff, Silver Chariot right behind him just nudges him right into the sunlight, thus ending Vanilla Ice. Vanilla ice cream has been melted by the sun. That was a stupid pun, but it rhymed! Polnareff, relishing in his victory, gets a final goodbye from Iggy and Avdol as their souls literally leave the room and give him a nice goodbye. This scene is handled really well, and it definitely made me a little misty-eyed. It was definitely the first scene in the entire series to do that, and yet it's still incredibly manly, and it just makes me reflect on the amazing times I've had with these characters and how much they've actually grown on me. Avdol was one of my favorite members of the group, so seeing him go is a shame because I feel he didn't quite live up to his potential quite yet, and there was an event in the series where he was killed off, he came back, and then he was killed again, so it was certainly an emotional roller coaster for that character. And Iggy himself, I love Iggy. I think he's an amazing character, and you know, for a character who has very little dialogue, I think that's quite an accomplishment. Just through his actions and emotions and just the way he's drawn is great. And I don't know if this was intentional or not. Maybe they were just like trying to follow the manga version, and maybe it's just a simple change in art style. But originally when Iggy was introduced, he looked more like a more realistic version of a Boston Terrier, and then as the series goes on, he has a more stylistic look to him, and I'm guessing that's maybe because his true personality was like finally starting to like manifest and show, and maybe that's why he changed. Maybe I'm just reaching on this, but it's a little detail that I liked because I liked seeing all the flashbacks of the characters, and I liked every version of Iggy, I liked every version of Avdol, and I really liked this freaking show. After all the action, there is a little bit of downtime as Suzy Q travels to Japan to see her daughter. This sort of like intensifies the final couple of episodes because now every member of the family knows what's going on, there's a lot at stake, and it's just going to be a big build up to the final battle with Dio, who kind of makes his first real appearance out of the shadows in this week's episode at the very end, but we'll get to that in a second. There's this one scene with this weird little vampire by the name of Nukasaku, or at least that's what they call him. And his powers, aside from being a vampire, is that on the other side of his head and behind him is a woman's body. So he tries to trick people by transforming into a woman or simply just turning around. And he tried to do that with Joseph and his group, and that didn't work out because, you know, Star Platinum just decks him right in the face. And you didn't realize what was really going on, and that was all you saw from that scene. That entire scene would look really messed up. But they end up just beating the crap out of this guy because they want to figure out where Dio is. And at the very end of the episode, in a post-credit scene, Polnareff finally runs into Dio, who's standing at the top of this staircase. All of this mist is coming out because, you know, he's a freaky freaking vampire, and you can actually see his face a little bit more. So we are this much closer to seeing Dio, and that's because we are getting that much closer to the end of Stardust Crusaders! And it's gonna be awesome! So what's the rundown on this week's episode of Stardust Crusaders? This one was fan-freaking-tastic, and the amazing cherry on top of the badass sundae that was vanilla ice cream. Did you see that pun I did there? Yeah, I just came up with that on the fly. In all seriousness, the action in this week's episode was fantastic, and it was a great showcase of why this series is just so unique and crazy. Getting to see Vanilla Ice's stand just constantly move around even faster than we've seen before, with all the crazy sound effects it's making, is just so infectious and awesome. Polnareff this week, when he finally went on the attack, was so awesome. The way he was just knocking him all over the room. Silver Chariot is, without a doubt, at this point in the series, my favorite stand. And it's a very simple stand. It's basically just a robot knight. But I just love the way it's animated. I love the way he fights. And that scene where he stabs him in the head and breaks his neck. Oh, that was so freaking manly and awesome. That was so cool. And I'm really glad that Polnareff got out of this battle, because he's my favorite character in the show, and I really want to see him live on, possibly in some later parts of the series. I want that to happen. But at this rate, I don't know what's going to happen. But I do imagine that after Vanilla Ice, how in the hell are they going to top that? Like, I really don't think he has any other goons that we know about. I really think at this part in the series, we're about to get to Dio, and we're going to be fighting him until the very end. And I can't wait to see what Dio's powers are. I'm just so excited. Ah, great. But this episode right here, on the technical side of things, animation, artwork was fantastic, the voice acting was even better, and there were some really great atmospheric scenes. The scene where Abdul and Iggy's soul goes away is going to bring some people to tears, and it's handled really well, and it's official that they are dead. There's even like a little title card, Iggy, Abdul have died. That's it. That's the end for these characters. It's kind of like whenever they beat somebody, it says if either they're dead or they're retired or they go to the hospital. It's just the way they do things in this series. This was just a really amazing episode right here. I can't do it justice. You need to see it for yourself. This is just an amazing episode and a fantastic way to end this one and get things built up for the big finale of Stardust Crusaders. So I'm going to give this week's episode, that's right, a 5 out of 5. Everything worked in this episode. Even the stuff with Holly and Susie Q. I liked that stuff because it was a great juxtaposition to the first half of the episode, which was so intense, while at the same time, it's actually sort of building things up even more because the tension is rising, because if they don't do anything, Holly's gonna die. And then of course we had Nukasaku, we had Polnareff meeting Dio. This was a fantastic episode. Let's get excited. The finale is just around the corner. Check it out, guys. 5 out of 5 from me. So you know I like this episode quite a freaking bit, but what about you guys? Did you watch this week's episode of Stardust Crusaders? Please tell me what you thought about it in the comment section below. Or are you sad that Abdul and Iggy are gone? Do you have any favorite memories from these characters? What do you want to see from the rest of Stardust Crusaders? Thank you guys for watching my review. Make sure to like it, share it with all your friends, and subscribe to the channel. You guys can also follow us on social media. Thank you guys again for watching, and as always, stay dandy, baby. JoJo pose.